to me, it's a disaster from a football standpoint,
Sure.
right? I mean, especially if Clowney doesn't play either. But Myles Garrett is the most, by miles, ironically enough, the most important player on their defense, and especially in their front seven. They will. I mean, I don't see. You never know whenever something seems so obvious one way, it sometimes goes the other.
You're right. Yeah.
Like my first thought is, without Myles Garrett, they're going to get zero pressure on the Falcons. Like, how are they going to get any pressure? They don't have anybody that's any good. If you don't have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, who's your best defensive lineman playing in the game?
Yeah, question mark.
You can't even really name anybody.
No, question mark.
Chase Winovich is on IR.
I mean, there's nobody. So
does it change? Do they start blitzing?
Oh, well, listen, to me.
I thought that would have happened last week.
I did too.
Oh, this is mandatory. You're going to see Joe Woods. Sometimes necessity is what does they say?
The mother of invention.
And right now, this is the most necessity that he's ever had as a coach.
Sure.
He's always, think about this, you've always been an individual who's had a guy on the other side that you got an elite pass rusher. You had two of them for the last 2 years. So now you're out with those guys, and you already know that your defensive tackles, we talked about it last week, aren't up to snuff. So what you're going to have to do is he's going to have to be multiple. He's going to have to break all the tendencies, right? They know what he likes to run. They know he likes to cover 3 and cover 4 stuff. But guess what we're doing? We're breaking tendencies on that. Now we can play more man-to-man. Now we have to bring blitzes from other places. We have to be multiple in what we do. I wouldn't even mind them coming out in a 3-4 alignment just to break tendency and say, hey, you guys are going to have to figure it out on the run, Atlanta, because if they come out here and run that same old stuff, they're not going to get no pressure, and I don't think they can stop the run with their defensive tackles. So it's going to be a game where Joe Woods is going to have to earn his money, and the Browns are going to have to play a damn good football game if they want to win in Atlanta.
Well, this happens in the NFL.
Yeah.
You go to the next man up mentality. You always hear that. And normally, the team has a next man up that you at least know and recognize.
Right.
We've said all
Mike
along,
Polk.
Hey, Mike.
There he is.
Hey. He teleported into the set.
By the way, Jay, with the next man up, right? Like,
who is the next man up?
here's something interesting.
I don't even know.
Usually, it's only a quarterback injury that will change the point spread, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
There are rare exceptions to that. But like last week, the Charger line was going around a lot because you didn't know if Justin Herbert was going to play. That might make it 7 points. The Browns yesterday afternoon, right before the Myles Garrett car accident, were a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
I just looked at the line now. They're a 1.5-point favorite. Now, I don't know if those whole 2 points is Myles Garrett, but usually a defensive lineman doesn't change the line at all. And maybe it was already going to move a little.
This
but to
your
move
normal,
2 points in less than 24 hours without a quarterback injury?
I think what that tells you is obviously this isn't your normal defensive end. And also, with the uncertainty of Jadeveon on the other side, opponents are going to look at this defense and the way they decide to attack it much differently.
Definitely.
Mariota is going to have more time to stand back in the pocket and find open receivers. He's always a threat to run the ball if the pocket breaks down. He may not need to do that now. He may be able to stand back there and pick a spot and let it sling.
Imagine being, real quick, Falcons right now trying to determine how to play this team when you don't know whether Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, or JOK are going to be in the game.
By the way, I didn't also, we forgot about, not that he's been any really good, but one of their starting defensive tackles, Taven Bryan, is banged up too.
Yeah, I know. It's a mess on that whole defensive front.
Yep.
And at this point, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're probably trying to figure out exactly what Mike just said. The Falcons are trying to figure out who they're going to go against. If you're Kevin Stefanski, you're trying to patchwork a defense together. You start scanning the waiver wire for guys that might be available, quick calls that you can bring in. Mm-hmm. I took a look. It's pretty slim pickings.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Sue before, and Dominic Sue.
Well, that move I thought would have happened by now if it was going to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was just stuck on 90 behind because somebody totally Myles Garretted on 90 somewhere. So I'm just sitting there and listening to sports radio, and they're going, I don't know, Olivier Vernon? I'm like, oh, God, is this where we're at? He's been out for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, is he available?
Either tore an ACL
He did,
or
2 years ago.
Yeah, it was
an ACL 2 years ago, but didn't he also have an Achilles injury?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
So, I mean, when he was here, he was productive.
Good. Yeah.
But it's like, why isn't he on a roster right now?
Well, I imagine because of the injuries,
Right.
But you know what? It's worth bringing him in for a workout.
I mean, at this point, they got to bring in some guys. They got to have just bodies, period.
Yeah,
you want someone with experience. But, yeah, I mean, Now, the good news is, while Atlanta has some talent on offense, certainly, and their offense has been pretty good, their defense has been awful, but their offense has been pretty good. Marcus Mariota is not like a deep go down. Like, because my fear is, if you have an offense now and you're playing the Browns this week, I can now run some more longer developing plays because there's going to be no pressure, or you would think there's going to be no pressure. Marcus Mariota is not really that type of quarterback that's going deep down the field.
No.
They're throwing more shorter passes and running the ball and using his athletic ability to get him out of the pocket. But if you're Mariota, though, you're going into this game thinking, like, I'm going to have all time to throw.
Yeah, you are thinking that. What's interesting to me is when Deshaun Watson was out, the defense stood up and said, we got you.
Yeah.
We've got you. And they really haven't. I mean, they haven't had their backs.
They have not.
They've won 2 games out of their first 3 despite that. What's interesting now is the offense, which has played far better than we expected. They're, I think, 5th in the NFL in total points or yards, total yards, one or the other. Mm-hmm. So now you've got the offense. They're going to have to stand up and say, D, we've got you. And now they've got to play even better than they have heretofore.
Did you think we'd be saying, well, we just got to lean on Jacoby Brissett until the defense heals up?
I mean, I don't think you can ask Jacoby Brissett to do any more than he's done.
We've got to continue to play at that level.
Yeah.
Shoot, look, right now, he the best thing smoking right now. Like, if you look at this, you look at between the offense and the defense, you like, okay, well, I feel more comfortable saying Jacoby Brissett go give me some more points than I say the defense stopping anybody. And here's the thing. Marcus Mariota could say, okay, I could go deep. He could go intermediate. They can run the ball. Cordell Patterson is second in the lead in rushing.
He's averaging 100 yards a game. Over 100 yards a game.
Yeah, the guy came out of nowhere last year, right? He'd been a journeyman until last year.
I kind of think what we finally figured out is that he was just miscast all along.
Yeah,
he was a wide receiver kick
Nobody
return
knew how
guy.
to use him. Nobody was
And
creative.
the Falcons get him, and the Falcons just run him like a lead back, and look what he's doing.
I still don't think the Falcons
Oh, by the way, he's got more yards per carry than Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
At 6.2.
Obviously very impressive. I still don't think the Falcons are a very good team. I still expect the Browns to win this. I think the Falcons have one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And I just don't think their offense is that good. I'm not buying it. First of all, I think here's the problem is, number one, people make way too many sweeping judgments after 3 weeks in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We should know better by now not to do that. If what you see in the first 3 weeks backs up what you thought going into the season, that I get. Yeah. But if what you see in the first 3 weeks is diametrically opposed to what you thought was going to happen, then you shouldn't change your mind on something. Doesn't mean you were wrong. You could have been wrong, and now, hey, it's better than you thought.
It's just too small a sample size.
It's too small a sample size. We don't know yet. Like the teams that weren't good last year, or you didn't expect to be good this year, if they're off to a 2-1 or a 3-0 start, we don't know yet that they're good. We know that they're off to a good start. That's a big difference.
I look at it like this.
Yeah.
Everything week to week. If you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons and what they got enough weapons to beat you. Drake London is playing like one of the best rookie receivers. They got Kyle Pitts, who's a mismatch on a lot of different linebackers, and they got a mobile quarterback. So they don't have to.
But he's not good, G. He's not a good player.
But Joe Flacco wasn't good neither.
Mm-hmm. Right?
For one game, he was good.
But here's what we learned from that.
Yeah.
He's an NFL quarterback. On any given day, he could stand up and have a standout day. And now there are circumstances here that say that could happen. They're not going to get a pass rush. The back end of the Browns defense has been wildly confused at times, and JOK is a question mark.
That's
so
fair.
You've got all 3 phases of that defense.
And we've watched this defense just give up big chunks to quarterbacks when they get out of the pocket again and again and again. And that's Mariota's specialty right now.
And so I would say that Mariota is in the Baker and the Flacco neighborhood.
Totally.
Well, there was no excuse for Flacco. Flacco stinks. He's old. He's not good. He was terrible against the Bengals last week.
Look good against us. I mean,
that was the
happens.
one game in the last 10 years.
He threw for 1 million yards in week 1 too.
Know,
now
he
threw it 50 times.
It was all in garbage time. And
the point is, we make bad quarterbacks. We have the capability to make bad quarterbacks look good.
You know, but that's the thing.
Except Mitch Trubisky, we could not make Mitch Trubisky look good.
We got to realize when we're thinking about this team that they have not played against a good quarterback yet.
They have not.
They're not this week. Next week. I don't know what Justin Herbert did not look like himself this past week.
He is not himself.
And then the week after that, you're probably playing Brian Hoyer.
Yes. It almost looks certain because they said for Jones multiple games.
Yeah.
They also said that the injury is the kind that players oftentimes get surgery for. First of all, high ankle sprain, you might as well break it. It's that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he couldn't put any weight on it when he was leaving. So it could, in fact, be Brian Hoyer, who's now 47 or 48?
49.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
The storylines continue, though, with this Browns team as far as, like, now we know we had Baker. Now we're going to bring Brian Hoyer back, who's been here 6 times, and we keep playing him. And we had, T.J. Watt out for Pittsburgh. Everything just this weird narrative of this season of all these weird things happening that usually happen to the Browns are actually happening for the Browns still. And I'm not saying Mac Jones was great or anything like that, but, like, I'd love to play Brian Hoyer. Wouldn't you take that against the Patriots?
Of course.
Yeah.
And a banged-up Justin Herbert,
Yes.
too. That's helpful also.
You know, Herbert, I still can't believe that he played last week.
Yeah.
If you were watching the week before when he took the shot to the ribs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And somehow this dude's tough as nails because he had no time to get a shot. Yeah, but not last. Like when the injury happened.
Right.
A play or two after the injury happened, he threw a 45-yard dart on a line.
Yeah.
And I'm
That
like,
was the
this
best
dude-
throw of the year against the Chiefs, by the way.
It was.
After
It was
he got hit,
unbelievable.
that throw was unbelievable.
And he made it in excruciating pain. The dude's pain tolerance must be through the roof. I'm sure they shot him up before last week's game.
Yeah.
But to your point, he was not the same guy.
No, he wasn't.
So they are catching some breaks here.
Are they
Yes.
Baker Mayfielding him, Justin Herbert, where they're putting him out there when he's not because he
No,
wants
because
to?
he still plays decent.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I think
plays
I
decent.
think
Yeah,
it was
he's
just an injury where, sometimes you see something with your eyes and you're like, that. Well, Tua on Sunday. You're watching it with your eyes and you're like, oh, he's not coming back today. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Right.
He looked like he'd been drugged.
Yeah.
And then he's back out on the
I
field,
know.
and I'm like, who cleared this guy?
I still can't believe the Bills lost that game. I don't know how that happened.
I can't either. I can't believe.
Neither can
By
I.
the way, I cannot believe that the Ravens-Bills game, which is a great game, is on at the same time as the Browns.
Yeah,
this
no,
week.
it stinks.
That sucks. But
Well,
anyway.
I'll tell you, the networks in general have put this Browns-Falcons game at the absolute lowest priority.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it will be shown in 2 markets.
Yep.
Atlanta and Cleveland.
Right.
Solomon
And
Wilcots is calling it.
I mean,
No,
I just
it's
made that
Beth
up.
Mowens.
We always got
wow.
him.
Beth Mowens on the call.
So she done moved up from the college joint.
Yep, she's doing some NFL games here and there. Fans have a very strong opinion of Beth. And I
Are the
can't say
guys
it's
really cool with
favorable.
it? Are the dudes cool with it?
Well, I can't say that.
That's
I
weird.
can't say that's the case. I worked with Beth for a while. She's a lovely, lovely woman. But it's
hey, you like some play-by-play guys?
some
and
you
women,
like, some you don't.
others.
You think there might be a little sexism there that some guys are mad that she's
I think
calling games?
You know what I think it is? I think it's the voice. That's what I always hear. The people that would tell me as if I was programming her on games. The worst thing ever is when you're answering for coworkers' decisions.
Right.
We've all done it. You're getting texts. What the hell? Why is this going on?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't make that decision. I happen to work at the company that did.
Yeah.
Well, whenever Beth would do a game, my phone would blow up.
Yeah.
Like I did it.
That is a masked. That's a
course some
masked
of-
way of saying of being sexist.
Of course,
though,
some of it's
Well,
sexist.
most of the complaint was I just can't take the voice.
Yeah,
The
because
voice,
it's a
the
woman's voice.
I always liked her games. I don't know, maybe because she did a lot of Mac games or something like that.
She did a lot of Mac games.
A lot of. So I grew up
she's
listening
good.
to it.
Joe,
right?
She worked with Joey Galloway for years doing Mac games, and Joey speaks very highly of her.
Yeah, I like
and if you can get past the voice, she does call a good game.
Yeah, I think
but
she's fine.
The,
I got
the
nothing
complaint
for
was always that it was hard to get
voice,
used to the
yeah.
voice.
That'll
Well,
put-
you'll hear it all on Sunday. Trust me. Jump on Twitter.
Yeah.
You'll
Oh
see
yeah.
it.
No thanks.
Twitter
I'll
will be
stay away
broken.
from that. Appreciate it. They will just put her through one of those husky voice voice modulators, so it sounds like a guy, so people can feel more comfortable.
And people
I
would
guess.
never know that,
Yeah,
and they
there you
wouldn't.
go.
They wouldn't know how to complain.
Sexism solved.
Yeah, there you go. What's next? World peace? What do you got, Mike?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, so it's a low priority game, is what we're saying. the
Yeah,
Browns
it is a
game.
low
Obviously,
priority
Nobody
game.
cares about it. Nobody wants to watch it.
No.
Yeah.
Except us.
Hey, we don't care about that. We need to get that 3-1.
Browns need to win the
low,
game.
low priority 3-1 work.
Yeah, they're all,
just like
they all
priority.
feel like playoff games when you're playing without your.
Got to win the game. That's all that matters.
I mean, can you imagine though, guys? If this is what the 2022 bingo card deals us, that we're now without just we don't know. So this is all speculation. But if it turns out that Garrett misses time and perhaps misses a season over this, the 2022 bingo card would have thrown at us no quarterback. Your second best player on the team is lost for a period of time. These things start to mount up, and then you start questioning. We keep calling it the race to 6. The race to 6. Where are the 6 wins going to come from? It gets tougher and tougher.
They got to beat Atlanta and New England. Those are 2 games you got to win.
Must-haves.
That gets you to 4, and then you hope you could win 2 of the other. What is it? 6 games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the Bengals. You got the Ravens. You've got the Patriots, or no, the
Chargers, the Dolphins,
the Buccaneers
Chiefs, and
are
the
in there.
Bucks.
Yeah. And the Buccaneers, they're passing it. Tom Brady's ranked, I think.
Their
20
offense has been bad so
He's
far.
25th in the league, I
Well,
think, in
all their
passing.
receivers have been out.
They're all dinged,
Hey.
except for Evans, who got suspended.
Hey, if he played one more game like this, John Costco came on here yesterday and said, hey, Jacoby Brissett's playing like a top 3 quarterback.
I don't want to go that far.
We got to stop.
We got to stop. We do have to.
Yeah.
We do have to pump the
gotta
brakes on
stop.
that because you know what happens? Expectations. And then, then he goes out there and shows us that, the old Jacoby Brissett. And we're like, wait, what happened?
We got to be realistic. All right, I don't want to be
Look
a
at
negative
that.
Nancy.
92.5.
By the way, you know who's dead last in the NFL PFF grade?
Your boy?
Who?
Baker.
Look at the
Dead
smile.
last in the
You see the
NFL.
smile on his
Look,
face.
dude.
He's so happy.
He's not even in the
I
top.
can't believe they
I
won.
set him up for that, too.
He's
Here you
not
go.
even, they had a defensive
get
touchdown
it,
and they
Bull.
had one long play.
Did he have another long touchdown pass? I didn't watch the game.
It was
at
a
all.
screen play. It was a
he had
screen.
a screen pass that the kid, what's his name? LaVisca Chenault.
yeah.
So he had yards after
Yes,
contact.
It was like
or-
70 or
I
something.
think he had like 70 yards passing before that play.
They're a mess.
Yeah.
When you look at who the Browns have played,
I
this
know,
year,
it's real bad.
It's
They're awful. They're all 1 and 2.
And here's the thing, we're 2-1.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
and this is against by far the easiest stretch of the schedule that we'll have all year. This is like a preseason, really.
Yeah.
And after this week, after Atlanta, it gets so difficult. Let's see where Jacoby is on the PFF grades against some quality opponents.
Yeah, like
because we haven't seen one
we
yet.
want to look. Chargers got a good defense. They got about 5-6 guys over
But
there.
Brooks is hurt. They just
true.
lost Slater.
You never know,
but is
right?
Bosa out?
I mean, we don't know. He's
But
yeah.
overall,
Knocked
when you
up.
play the Chargers, the Patriots, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, those are better quality opponents than you played so far.
Yeah.
So even if there's some guys out, their second-level guys are better than the second-level guys
Where
we're playing
we
now.
talk about the
It's
race
better
for
tests.
6. If you could put the first page of that schedule back
Yeah.
up, Steve. So here would be my question. It's dangerous to do, but let's just say that they
Schedule
go out
game.
and ball out against Atlanta, and let's
Right.
just say because we all said they're
Yeah.
going to be 3-1 after
Right.
week 4. So let's say they are. Now turn to page 2. They're at 3. They need
Right.
3 in the race to 6.
Yeah, now-
obviously New England.
That's a game they definitely should win.
Well,
I mean,
they better.
Brian Hoyer, it's at home. I
But-
mean, you should win
but
that game.
The Chargers, Ravens,
Chargers
and
is
the Bengals.
tough, but we'll see what Herbert looks like. Baltimore's offense looks phenomenal, but their defense has been bad so far. The
Yeah, they
Bengals'
missed
offense has
Wink
been so-so,
Martindale
although the
badly
Bengals'
in
offense
Baltimore.
was much better this week. Bengals' defense has actually been very good so
They'll
far.
be underdogs in 3 of the 4 games there. The Chargers, Baltimore, and
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati, they'll be dogs
I
in
don't
those.
know that they'll. Well, I
They're
guess
a
it
point and a
depends.
half favorite against Atlanta. They'll be dogs in 3
Well,
of those
it
4.
depends on injuries and who's playing
Sure.
and who's not.
That,
but, yeah.
Okay, so you maybe have 1 against New England. That gets you to 4.
Yeah.
Now, in the
Yeah, you're
next
gonna have to
3,
pull some upsets.
you need 2 against Miami, Buffalo, and Tampa Bay. I don't know where they come
Well, I
from.
mean, Jay, they could beat the Bengals at home.
They could.
beat the Chargers.
They could.
at
I'm just
home.
saying
I mean, those
they'll
are games
be
they could win.
No
likely
gimmies.
be underdogs.
But
Yeah.
those are tough. They're tough games.
And so are
Yeah.
Miami, Buffalo, and Tampa. I just don't know
It's
how
tough.
you get to 6. It's
It's
going to be
tough.
very.
You
Yeah.
gotta have
This
Myles.
game
You
is
gotta
so
have Myles
important on
Garrett.
Sunday.
You gotta
Gotta
have
win
Myles
this
Garrett.
game.
And the reason I did this little exercise is to show it's going to be difficult to get to 6. You're going to have to beat some really good teams to get to 6. That's
Yeah.
if they beat Atlanta.
Hey, just like the Jets beat the Browns when that shouldn't have happened. The Browns. First of all, those games that the Browns are going to be underdogs. They're not going to be big underdogs.
No, they'll probably be 3 to
You know,
4 to 5 somewhere.
Maybe
in there.
at Kansas City, they'll be a big underdog, right? That game's at Kansas City, I believe.
We don't play Kansas City.
No, we don't.
Yeah, go back. Show me the graphic again.
We don't
guys.
play
No,
Kansas City.
Kansas City's not on the schedule.
Oh, what the hell am I talking about?
Yeah,
I don't know. You
last
thinking
year.
Buffalo?
Oh,
or-
Buffalo. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
Buffalo. So the game that's at Buffalo, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm
they'll
pretty
be a
sure it's at
significant dog in that
They
game.
will.
Probably
Safe to
a
say.
touchdown,
I
right?
think they're
Back-to-back
gonna be
weeks
in-
at Miami. At
I think
Buffalo.
after this week, they might be favored in 2 of the next 7
Right,
games.
but like, even if they're an underdog to the Bengals at home, which it depends how the Bengals play between now and then, right? The
Yeah.
Bengals are playing Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins. If they
Yeah.
lose that game and they're 1-3, who knows? But as of now, if you made that spread, I think the Bengals. I don't know that the Bengals would be favored in Cleveland. If they would, it'd be maybe only by a point or 2.
That'd be something if they
The,
weren't.
the Browns can beat everybody on that schedule. They beat everybody on that schedule.
So you got us 10-1.
No, I mean they can beat everybody. I didn't say
It's
they
the
would.
NFL. Most
Yeah,
teams can beat most
anybody. Yeah,
teams,
anybody on any Sunday.
But the Browns play a way where it's uncomfortable because
They're not blowing anybody out.
they're gonna limit the amount of times the other team gets the ball. So if the team comes out and they don't hit it running and the Browns get to a point where they're up 10, they could be up, and they still got the ball with the way they play football, that's uncomfortable for anybody.
It is.
You start looking around like, well, when we going to get the ball back?
And that travels, too,
That
by the
travels
way.
everywhere. And so if you can keep, now the point is, they need to lean on the defense because they can't give up quick strike plays. Like if they want to give up touchdowns or play ball control, you got to make them go 80 yards.
Right.
You got third down conversions, no big chunk plays. But, they could beat everybody on that team. I watched Tampa Bay. They had a bunch of guys out there, like Gage out there moving around. I mean, the Buccaneers didn't look like a well-oiled machine.
Well,
or
we get
anything.
them weeks from now,
Yeah,
and by
it's
then
early.
you'd think they would be healthy.
It's early, right? Who's looking great right now? I mean,
Miami.
Yeah, Miami's looked really good so far.
There's,
They're not-
there's only 2 undefeateds left.
I'm still
Yeah.
not a full believer in what's his name?
Tua.
I wouldn't say Miami looked great, by the way. They got outgained and outpossessioned.
Yeah, but against
by-
Buffalo.
But they won. They found a way to win the game.
Mike, you beat Buffalo.
Yeah,
That's
no,
it.
you're doing something right. And here's the
I'm
thing.
not saying they're bad. I just
Buffalo's
think they're great.
that Miami, that cover zero defense. Can you explain to me why teams are struggling so hard against this cover zero defense?
Well-
I mean, they've got the personnel to play it, and few teams do.
I did a whole video on this 2 years ago, about a year ago.
Roll it.
Roll the beautiful bean footage. No, but
It was probably when they shut down Baltimore.
Yeah, it
with
was when they shut down
They
Baltimore.
literally played 9 in the box, cover zero the entire game.
because the football is a lot to, it's back in the day. Remember they said the Red Coats is coming? And when the Revolutionary War happened, the British used to line their people up in the front of the line and just take turns shooting. And then the Indians figured out, well, hold on. What if we just move around and just do a bunch of stuff?
Hide in the woods
and hide
and
in the
whatnot.
woods and just get them when they sleep or something. Like that.
You're
changed-
not playing fair.
Why ain't you lining
Get in
up?
a
Let us
line.
shoot. Get in a line and let's kill you. That's not the way it works. The NFL is exactly like that. They do a lot of gentleman stuff where it's like, you're like, hey, bro, I'm coming after you every single play. But then they figure, well, if I come after him every single play, I'm going to give something up. No, you're going to give something up regardless. But you can make them mess up because the offensive lineman does not know who's coming. So when your protection schemes are there and there's 7 dudes, and every single time it's a different person that shows up.
It's unreal.
You can't block all of them. And then you can't diagnose. You're just guessing. So somebody comes free, and the free guy has to make the play. Because if the free guy doesn't make the play, it's zero coverage in the back.
And that's why the personnel to play that defense is so critical.
And the coaching, I don't think that we've shown the defensive discipline to be able to make those switches that quickly and communicate that.
Well, our guys definitely.
That's what I'm
can do
saying.
it.
The Browns are going to have to make some big adjustment. I know you're talking about Miami's defense right now, but for getting back to the Browns defense, though, they are going to, I'm not going to make an extreme change like this, obviously, but they got to do something because, like, the Browns defense
I'd be shocked, though, if they went up to
could
a 3-4.
really struggle right now.
Yeah,
of course.
Really struggle.
I mean, they kind of look at.
They're already not playing that well.
Yeah, look at Denzel. I mean, these guys they're not playing up to their ability, and they're all dinged up now. It's a mess.
You have to do stuff where people don't expect it. Like, if you're good enough to just line up and say, I'm lining up in base, I'm rushing 4, you can't stop us. You got to have studs, man. That means you got to win one-on-one blocks. That means you got to lock down on the outside. That means the backers got to be able to get all the calls in. You got to be able to do some stuff where you can give your guys an advantage to be able to play with dudes like that.
Yeah.
If you cut down the amount of time they got to throw the ball, that helps your coverage. It also helps the fact that, now the quarterback is confused. He's holding the ball and he's moving around. So the thing is, Joe Woods is going to have to break some tendencies, and he's not going to be able to lean on the fact that he has Myles Garrett now as a crutch.
I mean, you could be without 5 out of your 6 starters between the D-line and linebacker.
Oof.
5 out of 6 you might be without.
Yeah, that's-
and the only one you'll have is who's their other starter at defensive tackle? I can't even think of who it is.
Jordan Elliott.
Jordan Elliott.
But
right.
he don't do nothing.
Guys,
That might be your only starter in your front.
That's
if
a
you're front.
tough ass.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
They might get smoked. Now that I think
Let me
about
ask you
it.
guys
What,
this, though,
do you
real
have
quick.
McNuggets? Do you have Ndamukong Suh's number back there?
Yeah.
Can we
I'll
get him
work
on the
it-
horn?
I'll work on it, but I got a question about that, though. So Joker status up in the air, obviously no Walker. Kyle Pitts was finally utilized in this offense last week, and I know
Yeah.
he lines up on the outside more, but he's as big of a mismatch nightmare as
Yeah,
there
that's
is
gonna be a
across the
problem.
league.
He
He has
Size,
like 1 touchdown
speed.
though in his career, so let's not get carried.
Yeah,
away.
but he's talking about matchup.
I'm just
He's a
saying the
great
matchup.
talent.
Just from a matchup
How will
standpoint.
the Browns try and neutralize what Kyle Pitts brings to the field?
Yeah, it is a matchup situation. I mean, that's what football is.
I like that. Now, listen, this don't get twisted. I like Phillips. Phillips came in and was the player of the game now. As far as athleticism goes, Phillips has way more. Anthony Walker has, some things as far as leadership, but as far as basically being a guy who can run the people, a guy that can cover people, a guy that's athletic, I think Phillips, and the guy that we miss all the time, and I think he plays well. Taki.
Yeah, he's had moments.
He's solid.
Yeah.
He's picked the ball off. He's come up big in some spots. And
he's improved, certainly.
He's not a guy that's going to wow you with anything.
Yeah. But
one thing that I agree, I think he can tackle the ball. He can play covers a little bit. I saw a play last week where he came in the game, and he did a tremendous job of being able to get back 20 yards and just be in the way of a seam route. And so some of those things are going to need to be done because they haven't used Kyle Pitts all that well. But guess what? They're playing the Browns this week.
How does he only have – I think he has 1 or 2 touchdowns.
I don't understand it. They didn't use him that well last year.
Do you know – did your PFF guy mention at all why Phillips, who filled the stat sheet – and I'm with you. I'm just watching the game with my eyes, and this guy's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he had, I think, the 6th – he was 6th highest on just the Browns in the PFF grade. And meantime, Myles Garrett grades out as the highest defensive player in the NFL again. And
no, not in the NFL.
Or for the Browns. For the Browns.
Yeah.
What was he, 82?
82, yeah.
And he was the highest grade for the Browns.
Yeah.
Did he mention at all why Phillips graded so poorly but appeared to play so well?
We didn't ask him specifically about Phillips, but when they look at – so basically when they look at the PFF grade, they break it down into multiple things. It's not about how many plays you make. They go in a percentage. So say, for instance, you play 10 plays. If you do the wrong thing on 3 out of those 10 plays, you already start down at what, 70%?
Yeah.
So it works in a way. If you miss tackles, you get minuses. If, say, for instance, you are if you're in the right gap, you get a plus or minus. If you get driven out of your gap, it's a plus or minus. So there's a lot of different things that happen, especially with corners.
None of those great. I mean, Myles Garrett, even 81 is like a solid grade, but
it's
not
a solid. It's not
No.
crazy.
Same thing with Fields. All the other grades are bad.
The one that really jumps out at me is Denzel. I mean, what in the hell was he doing?
What is going on? What's really going on?
That's a great question.
There's got to be something going on.
There is something
head,
going
right?
on.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an injury. This is just strictly a guess. I just feel like it's got to be something with him.
Yes.
Something personal because this isn't Denzel Ward.
Right.
He's been
I just
he's been
saw your
awful.
finger wag where you had an idea. What do you think this is?
Well, somebody called me. Somebody said, "Yo, G. Bush, I seen him in the club yesterday. It was a K. Michelle." One of
that right?
my callers. I got ravens and birds everywhere now for some reason. I'm like,
Why?
I think this.
What day was this?
This like Saturday.
So that's before the game.
Yeah,
He's in the club.
This ain't Saturday. That's what I'm hearing. I'm
And
like,
Not a good scene.
don't know that for a fact.
Don't know that for the fact. That's hearsay,
speculation.
allegedly. But here's what I'm gonna say. Here's what I'm gonna say about Denzel Ward. See, sometimes like when you get and Brad talks about it all the time, man. Like when you get that contract, it changes everything. Like it's like now people know you got 100-some million. You know what I'm saying? Like he was already rich, but now you rich.
Now you're dealing with rich people
Like
problems.
you got rich people problems, and a lot of the stuff that come along with somebody knowing exactly how much you make is you either got some good stuff or some bad stuff. And 9 times out of 10, it's all bad, but just kind of switched up, and people make you think it's good. So when you get out there, he could have went out and played freely. It's always different hunting that goal. You get that goal, right? You're like, oh, I'm here. I'm finally doing my. And then you realize, oh, snap, I got these requests. I got all these stuff that I got to do.
A lot of distractions.
A lot of distractions.
Yeah.
And a lot of pressure because now you got this check and you got to earn it. You're not a rookie anymore. You're not trying to prove yourself. You've proven yourself enough that they gave you this enormous contract, and now you actually have to live up to it. And I think the pressure's getting to him. And you need to look at his social media if you need proof of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he shouldn't be even looking at it, let alone commenting on it or getting hurt.
I'd like to see him get
And
off
there's
of it.
no excuse this week for him to have a bad game. Drake London, I know he's a talent, but he's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's a rookie, but he's averaging 70 yards a game.
Touchdowns in the last
for
2
a rookie
games.
to do that to come in.
Can you even name another wide receiver on the Falcons?
No.
Olmidio Zacchaeus, I think, is one of their guys.
I don't know who the hell they
pronouncing
have.
it wrong.
I don't
even know who their other
That's the
starting
problem,
wide receiver is. I think it's Olmidio Zacchaeus.
I got it. Let me
look it
on.
up.
I have it.
You have a depth chart?
Yeah, somewhere in here.
The Falcons receivers outside of Drake London and Kyle Pitts are very limited. Let's leave it at that. Calvin Ridley's suspended this year, remember, for gambling. So without him.
Earl is one of our producers on the show. He just sent this text. This is interesting.
Yeah.
According to PFF, if Taki played more qualifying snaps, he'd be a top 10 linebacker.
Yeah.
So let's make sure he plays more.
I mean, you don't just worry about Drake London. Obviously, you worry about Kadarrell Hodge, Brian Edwards, Damiere Byrd, and, oh my gosh, and they have Jared Bernhardt.
Oh, this old Medio Zacchaeus.
Good Lord.
That's where Bernhardt is. I've been wondering where he was.
They don't have.
I just made up two of those names.
They got nobody. You think the Browns have issues?
Yeah.
They got nobody.
I hope
so, because we had the lowest rated cornerback in the league.
But you know what they're saying on an Atlanta sports talk radio show right now? Who do they have at receiver except for Amari Cooper? Let's look at these guys.
Nobody.
Anthony Schwartz. Didn't he play in the SEC a couple years ago and wasn't that good there?
And their defense is giving up massive big plays the whole year.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's still in the league?
Yeah, the Atlanta version of this show is just tearing up the Browns right now, but with a Southern accent.
I mean, actually, you're right.
Except the Browns have Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Cordero Patterson's a nice player. He's not as good as those
He's not
guys.
Chubb and Hunt, no.
I know he's playing great.
Here's what we can deduce.
Yeah.
We need to see Nick Chubb play every play of the game on both offense and defense.
Yeah, I think
he
that's
needs
fair.
to fill in for
Nick
Myles
Chubb
Garrett.
would be a great linebacker. I have no doubt in my mind that he could fill in and be a very,
He probably
very
would.
productive
This is a
linebacker.
weird game because the Falcons' defense stinks. I'm really worried that the Browns' defense is going to be bad in this game. And yet, the Browns' offense it's a great running game. The passing game has been pretty good so far, but you can't expect them to put up 1 million points. I don't buy that the Falcons' offense is as good as it's been. They can't. They don't have a good passing offense. Mariota stinks, but they've run it well. So
they easily could have lost to Seattle. Just like the Browns could be 3-0 or they could be 1-2. The Falcons could easily be 0-3.
I did see that they beat the spread all 3 games so far, though. Even the 2 that they lost,
their
they
offense
still
has
beat
been
the
good.
spread.
Their
so
offense has been
what I'm saying is
surprisingly good.
they're outdoing expectations.
Yeah.
So people are underestimating them a little bit, and maybe I'm assuming we're doing.
I
that
still
too.
think when it's all said and done, they're a 5-6 win team.
It's like you said, though, beginning of the season, we trying to make judgments 3 games into the season. Like, do you guys really think at the end of the season we're going to be like, can you guys believe that Miami's undefeated still? Like, they're not. That's not going to
I think Cincinnati's going to beat Miami.
Yeah.
I do too.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. I'm really starting to be like, for NFL games, I'm not prognosticating over 2 weeks.
Part of the job.
I mean, it is part of the job. but
over 2 weeks
over
ahead?
2 weeks ahead.
Yeah, it's impossible. It changes so quickly.
It's too much involved. Like
One key injury
the
is a
matchups.
huge difference.
It's just, and then plus there's games where you just like, who would have thought that? Like, nobody picks the Colts to beat the Chiefs.
No,
Nobody's picking that.
No.
And the Colts didn't even play that well.
No.
Matt Ryan looks completely shot.
It's just
He does.
It's one of them.
You thought like, it was just the Falcons. He'll go to the Colts. He'll have a better line. He'll be better. No, he's been worse.
Josh McDaniels, shout out to him, the pride of Camp McKinley, man. They're 0-3 right now, bro. And they got Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, 5 running backs.
Yeah, imagine that in that division where ground's not going to be easy to make up.
Through 3 weeks, they're the biggest bust in the league.
Good gracious,
it's
man.
way early.
It's a head scratcher.
But the Chargers are 1-2.
If you get them down, that's why I like the fact that the Browns have a style that's translatable. It may be boring, it may be garbage, it may be trash. But when you're dealing with these other leagues, when you're dealing with a passing league, I'm seeing a bunch of guys that they're not hitting receivers. Receivers is out. They look real bad as quarterbacks now.
McNuggets, I'll come right to you, but I want to, off of that thought, this is really interesting, and I haven't heard a lot of guys talk about it. Collinsworth touched on it a little bit Sunday night, and they touched on it a little bit in the Bucks and the Packers game. And this is where I'm going. Why all of a sudden are great quarterbacks looking average? If the game last night, boring. There were the quarterbacks didn't take over. They combined for just over. I know they do.
Yeah.
And then take it to Brady and Rodgers.
Horrible.
In that game on
That game
Sunday.
was awful.
The quarterback play, horrible. I know that there's some significant absences with Hill being gone in Kansas City, but I'm waiting for Patrick Mahomes to walk through that door.
Well, Lamar's looked great.
And Lamar's looked better than I think we thought he was going to.
He's been phenomenal.
He hasn't been MVP Lamar, but he's been better than he was last year.
A lot better.
But I'm just watching around the league, and Collinsworth touched on it, and he said, I don't know if it's something specifically that all these defenses are doing,
Right.
But all of a sudden, because you always say, why is it when I watch other teams, quarterbacks make it look easy? Nothing has been easy for the quarterbacks this year.
We've been saying for the last however many
Even
years.
Josh Allen.
It's now a passing league. It's now a passing league. It's
You think the defense have caught up?
I guess. I mean, eventually you have to adjust, and I'm assuming that in the same way that offense changed to become more of a passing league to adjust the defenses, there's been like a slow, and I don't know how they would do that exactly.
So maybe you do it through the draft. You would start
So
spending more of your draft capital on
Wait a
defense.
second. Josh Allen's thrown for 1,000 yards and has 9 touchdowns.
I'm saying against Miami. Against Miami, he didn't look like Josh Allen.
But he still
in
threw
his
for
first 2
400 yards.
in defeat.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of that stuff, they seem to, in Miami's good at this. They give up chunk yardages between the 20s, and then all of a sudden they clamp down, and it's very difficult to score on them once they get close.
How many points did he get? He threw for 400, bro. He had 17 points.
17 points.
I think it's a coincidence, guy. You know who's looked good? Philadelphia. They've looked really good so far.
They're the other 3-0.
Jalen Hurts
right?
is playing really
They're
well.
They're 3-0, and Miami's 3-0.
Another one
and that's it. That tells you where the NFL is. 3 weeks in, 2 undefeated.
And was anyone calling that those two would be the 2 undefeated
Absolutely
teams?
not.
No, definitely
You
not.
know what I mean?
Not. You'd have maybe Buffalo, Kansas City, San Diego. McNuggets.
One point before we move on to the Cleveland championship discussion, because we got to get to that.
Yeah.
But you remember the report that came out that the Browns, while they were looking at Watson, also were looking at Russell Wilson, and
Yes.
Wilson said no. Wilson has been an abomination.
Has not looked good at
And
all.
no matter
3
what you get from
games.
Watson,
it's early, but
it certainly will not be as bad as what we've seen through 3 weeks.
That's
from
another
Wilson.
game. That was the Sunday night game.
Terrible.
Right?
Absolutely
And that
terrible.
was when Collinsworth said, I don't get it. I don't get it. You know,
Yeah.
we're used to seeing Russell Wilson come out here and find whatever it is the defense gives you, because the defense has to pick their poison. They have to give you something.
Right.
And Russell always finds what that something is usually at halftime. And then in the second half, it's, he just exploits that.
Right.
And it was like they were moving the chess pieces the entire game, and he couldn't figure it out.
And he's got plenty of, unlike Seattle, where he didn't have a good offensive line and he had a questionable running game. He had good receivers there, but he's got a good line. He's got a great running
You're right.
game and great receivers.
Well,
The
reason I bring up the theme of the struggling quarterback,
yeah.
how well positioned would the Browns be if that trend continues?
Right.
And to your point, I think you're right. It is it's an overcorrection. For a while, it was like pinball machines. Offenses were scoring 40s. Well, what happens is when Buffaloes of the world and even the Chiefs, to a certain extent, have gone through this, when they say, wow, our offense is great, but we're not winning the Super Bowl because our defense has been overlooked. Teams have put so much draft capital into offensive players that, and I don't know, I'd like to see what the numbers are on this. Perhaps over the last 2 or 3 years, other teams have seen that and said, okay, if they're going to build their teams with these superpower offenses, we need to spend more of our draft capital on defense.
I think we got to see it more than 3 weeks.
They got 3. Nowadays, when you look at the spread offense and you look at how high schools go, now more and more than ever, people grow up with the pass, right? Before, when somebody ran the spread back in the day, you was like, oh my God, there's more receivers.
You're
here.
right.
And now you got kids that grow up, and now the corners are getting better. So now teams are starting 3 corners. And like Newsome plays in the slot.
Right.
He's a first-round draft pick.
And he has to.
And
you're
now
right.
the offenses may have to adjust, but I think at this point, still too small sample size.
It is a small sample size, but you made a great point. I've talked to college coordinators that said it's so easy for us to implement this spread offense because they're running that in high school. That's what high school kids want to run. And then for years, we've heard NFL coordinators talk about this crop of quarterbacks they're giving us. They can't get under center. They can't. They're always in the gun. They're used to twins on both sides and just flinging it everywhere. And that's not a pro style offense. But I think you're right. I think now we've had enough sample of high school quarterbacks that were very good at that in college. And now the NFL quarterbacks or coordinators have realized we got to play to their strengths. And their strengths are running what they've run their whole life instead of asking them to try to fit a round peg into a square hole and run a style offense when that's not who they are.
Kyler Murray got 100. How many millions? He would have never been a quarterback in that long ago. 10 years ago, it wouldn't be viable.
Well, too small.
All right.
Yeah, here's the fun topic.